Increasing tropical cyclone possibilities for Australia on today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for March 7th. Whilst we've not got any active tropical cyclones, it is still an increasingly likely scenario that we will get one or two over the next few days. We're code blue for 3 different systems, and so far we've had 9 storms around the world. First, as we often do, we'll take a look at the Atlantic. It's 85 days until hurricane season here, and not much is going on in the basin. A frontal system off the east coast of the United States, and some severe weather moving in, a slight risk in effect over Texas and into Kansas today. 68 days until the Eastern Pacific hurricane season begins, and it's relatively quiet here as well, with the other side of that severe weather event protruding into the west in the Eastern Pacific off the western coast of Mexico. In the Western Pacific, it's frightfully quiet here right now. There's no activity in the tropical zone at all, barely even a cloud. In the North Indian Ocean, it's a little bit more active with a bit of cloud cover over the Bay of Bengal, but that's about it. Well, here's where the action is. The Southern Hemisphere, we've given a 70% chance for the system that's hovering around the 90-degree mark right now, 30% for the area further east, which could go on to affect Australia later on, and a 20% chance in the South Pacific. We're keeping a level 60% chance for the area of interest off the coast of Madagascar, and that is still our primary feature. It could still become a tropical cyclone, and it is pretty much touch and go. An earlier ASCAP pass found most of a circulation, but probably not a full one, and not strong enough to be called a cyclone anyway. And in the South Pacific, things looking relatively quiet here too. Further east, that is. Obviously, we're still watching that system that could form near New Caledonia. Well, here's the area of interest in question, the one that's still causing the most attention. It's 150 kilometers from Europa Island, 173 from Shandamba, 210 from Toliara, 220 from Morombe, and 649 from Inhambane in Mozambique. This system will be heading towards the northwest, we expect, fairly soon, but at the moment it is stalling out off the southwestern coast of Madagascar. No warnings in effect, but there could be flooding issues. Satellite imagery over the course of today shows the exposed circulation of this system, with significant cloud top convection onto the northeastern side of the storm. Also shown with the ZER imagery enhancement here, much more difficult to find the center when you're looking at the infrared imagery. It's visible, that really helps us pinpoint where it is. Here's some imagery from the Force 13 website that you can access in real time. Go to force13.com and that will show you this amongst other things. Water vapor imagery as well, and you can see there certainly lots of rainfall will be occurring along the southwestern coast there underneath all of that cloud cover, so that's where the most flooding potential is today. Whether it becomes a tropical cyclone or not, it is quite close, but still more work needs to be done if it is going to get there. As we continue to look at some more of that infrared imagery, various different enhancements. Well, here's the wide shot showing the whole southwest Indian Ocean, and you can see it is on its own down near Madagascar, but out to sea towards the east there you can see a big flurry of activity that's prompting this. Here it is, this massive area of cloud and rain, and on the southern end of it you'll have the other Invest 91S that really isn't looking like a tropical cyclone at all, very linear and staggered, being a big part of this massive monsoonal gyre. Here it is, a close-up of Invest 91S. See if you can pick out a center in there. I'd be very surprised if you could. However, there are two banks of heavy convection on either side of what would be an apparent centre, and you can see it there, once again quite linear. This will change eventually, but it might take quite a few days before Invest 91S gets itself going properly. Nonetheless, 70% chance for this system, which you might be surprised looking at just that imagery. And could it be this that becomes the system in the South Pacific? A little blow up of convection near Vanuatu right now and towards the Solomon Islands. Well, this is the Eastern Pacific right now, and a big gash of colder water has ballooned up in the equatorial zone. Is that the sign that we're looking for of this upcoming La Nina? In the Atlantic, still staying warm in the Caribbean Sea, holding on to 27 degrees Celsius. In the Western Pacific, might be warming up just a little bit now. We've certainly just about passed the general low trough in the Northern Hemisphere, up to 28 degrees in a few spots there. North Indian Ocean also looking decent, and warmer temperatures are piling back up towards West Bengal and Bangladesh. The change has been quite apparent in the last week or two. Similar off the west coast of India as well, with those warmer waters extending towards Gujarat now. The southwest Indian Ocean still very warm in the Mozambique Channel, where this system is right now, getting up and above 30 degrees Celsius. And if it does move towards Mozambique, staying fairly warm. Off Western Australia, extremely warm waters, especially further north where that second system could form, the 30% chance, well above 32 degrees Celsius in one or two spots there. And in the South Pacific, very warm waters around Vanuatu and Fiji and the Solomon Islands where that system could form. It is once again around 31 degrees Celsius there, which is plenty for tropical cyclone activity. And this is how it all looks compared to average. Most areas are above average, but one or two notable spots below, Western Australia being one of those. And also, of course, looking at the Eastern Pacific, a big cold pool just starting to open up there, possibly the sign of this La Nina that everyone's been talking about. The Atlantic generally above average, apart from one or two areas in the Sargasso Sea. Oceanic heat content is prime for large areas of the South Pacific, including the Coral Sea, so keep a lookout there for this system which could take advantage of that. In the North Pacific, there's still one or two spots in the East Pac that are conducive, and in the Western Pacific, an increasing slowly area just west of Guam, extending towards the Philippines. Looking good there for the upcoming season. Well, this is the GFS model, and we'll mark out where the system is right now because you might struggle to see it, and then it moves off towards the northwest in a couple of days and then shoots into the eastern coast of Mozambique just north of Beira. Not really a tropical cyclone during most of that period, and I would say if it does now, it would only do it for a brief period and maybe a minimal tropical storm as it moves into Mozambique as a worst case. There could be signals there at the very end of that run, that it could appear back off the coast again. Now looking at the southeast Indian Ocean, and you'll see this system developing and a second system developing there as well. There it is, forming out of this monsoonal gyre that generally moves eastwards now, and of course this is a big deviation on previous days where the models have very much shifted east. And both of those systems in tandem and coexisting there off the west coast of Australia, so double trouble potentially there. In the South Pacific, we're looking out for this system. GFS is a lot more confident that we'll see a tropical storm now, but other models are yet to latch on. There it is, passing close to Fiji and getting close to hurricane status as well as it does so, and then pulling out towards the southeast. It doesn't really impact the islands though at the moment, but that could change, and it forms near Vanuatu as well. Maybe some tropical storm force winds. We've marked the Cocos Keeling Islands on the left and the Christmas Island on the right in the little white circles there because it's hard to see on the map. They'll be getting quite substantial rainfall over the next 7 days from this massive area of storminess, and the weather will be very poor for quite a few days there. 10 inches in the Cocos Keeling Islands, 250 millimeters, and 7 inches on Christmas Island, that's over 150 millimeters. But look at some of the isolated amounts at sea, well above 25 inches in a few spots, over 500 millimeters, and even into Australia now, into Western Australia near the border with Northern Territory, 16 inches in one or two spots there along the coast. That's over 400 millimeters in the next 7 days, provided this second storm further east starts to form. So in the longer range, what happens next? Well, the GFS very bullish with both of these systems, both of them being hurricane equivalent at the same time. The eastern one making a landfall, quite a powerful landfall as well in the Kimberley, quite an impressive one there. And the second one looks like it's about to reach Western Australia towards the end of that run. This is day 5 to 10. The right-hand storm looks like it briefly reaches Category 3, rapid intensification into landfall. That's the Saffir-Simpson scale. Category 4 on the Australian scale, but of course that is long range, and I wouldn't take that for granted just yet. Looking at that southern Pacific system, it eventually dissolves away near Tonga, and briefly maybe a second system forming near New Caledonia, but no other models support that yet. It's just a GFS, you can see it again there, a brief tropical storm forming just off the southern coast of New Caledonia there. So the GFS promises us a busy time, but we've seen it flop many times before, including with the Madagascar system. They were calling for a Category 2. Well, that hasn't happened. Scan the barcode and that will take you to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look at all our products as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. And our Still Waiting for Hone t-shirts, still available because we just can't get enough of that Hone. Well, in the Scilly range, we continue to watch that second system as the first one pulls towards the southeast, and it does weaken quite a lot, and then it turns around back towards the west and strengthens again. So it would be a very odd track to see that one, and that is Invest 91S at the moment, eventually doing that. That would certainly be one of the oddest tracks that I've ever seen, and it eventually pulls back outwards, and goodness knows how long it lasts after that. That could be another competitor after Freddy, dare I say. I don't know, probably not. Meanwhile, in the Gulf of Carpentaria, another system might be forming there too in the Scilly range. There it is, a broad system at first, gets the tropical storm force winds and moves slowly towards the south by southwest, and then towards Groot Island, and then towards the Northern Territory top end, and it just seems to mill about there for quite a while and struggles to get itself organised. Towards the east as well, over the Coral Sea, another little signature for a system that tries to form at the very end of that run, March 22nd, 23rd maybe. That of course is Scilly range, so don't put faith into that one at all yet. And on the Australian theme, Cyclone Hamish was on this day, March the 7th, 2009, and there it is, pictured, a high-end Category 4 with winds of around 150 miles per hour and a pressure of around 924 millibars, Category 5 on the Australian scale, gave Queenslanders a rough ride and a very close call as it skimmed the coast, moving sharply towards the southeast. Well, back to today. 15 years since 2009, would you believe? Alberto is the first name on the Atlantic naming list this year, Aletta in the Eastern Pacific, and Hone is next in the Central Pacific this year, we think. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Iwinya, and in the North Indian Ocean, it will be Rimal. Still stuck at just the 9 storms so far this year, and we are around 20 or maybe 30% below average for the time of year so far from what we've seen. Australian region, Megan is the next name. Southwest Indian Ocean, it's Filippo, and in the South Pacific, it's Pitta. That's it from today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again with more updates tomorrow.